What's poppin', Rocky Top? Welcome back to Poppin Politics, UT's very own political wrap-up show, where you learn about politics and I eat popcorn. I'm your host, Evan Mays. Let's get started. Today, the Iowa Caucuses will take place, which is a huge process in the Democratic primary election. But what is the Iowa Caucus, and why is it important? The Iowa Caucus is the first election that takes place in the presidential primary process, that's a tongue twister, and is often viewed as an important indicator of the remainder of the race. Voters from all over the Hawkeye State will turn out to vote, and many political analysts firmly believe the results of this election could clarify the frontrunner or frontrunners of the election overall. In fact, every candidate to win the Democratic nomination since 2000 has won the state of Iowa. You may be asking, who's on the ballot? Well, the roster is pretty full. Former Vice President Joe Biden, former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg, former Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick, Senators Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Amy Klobuchar, and Michael Bennet, Representative Tulsi Gabbard, and Michael Bloomberg, Andrew Yang, and Tom Steyer are all currently running to win the Iowa primary. Iowa is a closed primary state, meaning voters must be registered Democrats to participate in the election. Who's predicted to win Iowa? Well, that's a good question. That's a question that's on everyone's mind. The polls have been a roller coaster to say the least. Pete Buttigieg was the underdog in Iowa who rose to frontrunner status late in the 2019. But recently, Senator Bernie Sanders has taken the lead. Many analysts, however, have questioned how much stock the public should put into these polls. Centrist candidates Amy Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg have campaigned heavily in the state, and some analysts predict they may have a good showing in the Midwest. Back on the Eastern Seaboard, two major events are about to take place in the Capitol building. On Tuesday, President Donald Trump will deliver the annual State of the Union address to both chambers of Congress as well as some Supreme Court justices and other honored guests. Trump is expected to give an optimistic speech, specifically stressing the country's economic growth. Trump's aides have said he will claim the State of the Union is strong, despite giving this speech before being acquitted of his own impeachment. Speaking of, the following day, on Wednesday, the Senate is expected to vote to acquit, meaning that he won't be removed from office, President Trump, effectively ending his impeachment trial. For the past few weeks, the Senate has heard arguments for and against removing the president from office. The main fight, however, was whether or not to allow the introduction of new witnesses and evidence into the trial. On Friday, the Senate voted 51-49 to not allow new witnesses to testify or new evidence to be introduced in the Senate's trial of the president, despite several polls showing a vast majority of Americans supported hearing from new witnesses and seeing new evidence. Many analysts have claimed that this vote was the nail in the coffin for the Democrats' case. Interestingly, Republican Senators Mitt Romney of Utah and Susan Collins of Maine did vote to allow new evidence. The tumultuous impeachment process is set to end on Wednesday. However, it has been all but decided that the Senate will acquit the president. Well, strap in, everyone. This week in politics will be a bumpy ride. But here at The Beacon, we're ready to keep you up to date on everything that you need to know. I hope this has been informative. I hope you've loved this episode, and I can't wait to see you next week. I'm your host, Evan Mays, signing off.